Welcome to The Curve Weekly, the podcast that keeps you up to date with all of the money, business and stock market tea.
Brought to you by the Curve's research team. It's the latest insights on what's happening in the stock market, companies, other money-related news so that you can stay educated and ahead of the curve.
You can thank us later for sounding smarter than those finance bros at your next dinner party. Where are you recording this evening, Soph?
Honestly, do you know what? I do my best to make the podcast look, glamour for like podcast aesthetics. But right now I'm broadcasting live from my parents' kitchen.
And they're listening, they're watching Netflix, they're watching White Lotus with their headphones in so they don't disturb us, bless.
And you can just hear the occasional knife screeching across the plate. I'm like, shut up, eat quieter.
Eat quieter. I know I'm in your living room, but
I know that I've been here for 3 months and I'm your oldest child and I'm still leeching off you. Not my finest. Also, okay, off brand for me, but I'm having a drink. I don't normally drink when I'm stressed. I normally know it's going to make me more anxious the next day, but this is a special occasion. Glug, glug, glug. And it
glug,
is.
glug, glug, glug.
Can I have a quick vent? I need to sort of get off my chest. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, just on the White Lotus stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually, someone sent it to me the other day and I was like, oh my goodness. So White Lotus, every single cast member got paid exactly the same for the latest series.
That's
so
and
cool. It's quite a big deal. Yeah, because it's usually women get paid less for, even if they're in leading roles versus men. And so they just made a blanket rule in the contract that every cast member, no matter how famous or how unfamous.
Epic.
Yeah. Go White Lotus.
How's the show going, guys? I don't know how they're watching it. Have they got one AirPod? Oh my, they're so cute. They've got one AirPod in each. Okay, so my rant. So I spoke about this on socials. I feel like maybe, 2 months ago, I put up a story about this whole egg freezing thing because I've been do I want to invest $14,000 into getting my eggs
how much
frozen?
It is now?
It's gone up to $14,000 and that's not including storage.
Is that New Zealand dollars?
Yeah, New Zealand.
Yeah.
So what, £7,000 or something?
Yeah.
But I had this appointment today with they were talking about how you administer the injections and blah, blah. And I, at this point, by the way, haven't even decided if I definitely am going to do it or not. I'm kind of just going along with it because if I want to do it before I leave New Zealand, I have a finite amount of time. I have to do it this cycle if I want to do it. So I'm still really on the fence because it feels like so much money for also, sorry, but such shit odds.
I know.
I don't know if you remember, but they were essentially so if we get 10 eggs, which is very unlikely, you have a 40% chance of one of those turning into a baby. I was like, oh, epic. So not only is this breaking the bank, but it's also not even what a shit insurance policy. Imagine if I was if someone, because we all talk about it like that. So many of us are oh, it's the insurance policy, it's the blah, blah, blah. But if your insurance policy only 40% likely to pay out if something went wrong.
Imagine if you died, you got life insurance, you died and they're oh, there's a 40% chance we can pay out, but we're not going to know until it happens.
It's not, it shouldn't be talked about like an insurance policy because it's not.
No.
How many eggs did you get?
4.
You see, that's nothing. Honestly.
I was really annoyed. And they were you can do another round. I was yeah, of course I can. Sure.
Because I've got another fucking $10,000.
And I was is this?
They must do it on purpose. Oops, we didn't give you enough hormones.
Yeah. I was at what point do they, it's a money-making thing. It's a business.
So this is exactly what I thought. I was and that's why I'm drinking my feelings right now, which I do not condone and I normally wouldn't do this, but I had to come home and get into bed. I ate chocolate. I made myself 2 massive toasted sandwiches with so much cheese. And I lay in bed and I watched Gossip Girl, which is my numb out. That's the equivalent of me getting high, having a joint.
I'm surprised you have any episodes left, to be honest.
I don't. I just rewatch them all the time. But I was just this is shit. It is so expensive to be a woman, from what we spend on our hair to our face, to our clothes, to now we have to pay for a few extra years of fertility when some shit old 75-year-old man could pop out a baby tomorrow. I'm just God, we got a shit end of the stick. I have to inject myself with hormones. Ugh.
I remember the male doctor saying, yeah, you have to inject yourself, but And I was like, oh, does it hurt? He's like, no. Like the whole process like doesn't hurt, like very, very minimal. And I was like, how the F would you know?
Do you inject your stomach?
Yeah. I was like, have you been through this process? Anyway, I was just like a bit like probably hormonal.
And I
anyway.
think the other thing, sorry, I'm really on one, but the other thing that annoys me is that like it's not only the money, it's not only, but even the idea of putting all of those hormones in my body, like I'm going to be a total bitch for the next month. Can you imagine? Yeah. I'm going to be like,
please let me know
I
when
need
you
a
do
nap. Well, that's why I was having a drink. Because they were like, you've got to pretend to be pregnant for the month. So you can't have any alcohol. You might have headaches the whole time. You might want a nap. And I'm like, oh, God. Sorry. I know it's a real privilege to even consider doing it. Like I realize that. I think just the whole system I'm a bit effed off at.
We put out a post a while ago. I don't know what it was, but there was like one response that was, that women should be paid to have children. Do you know what I mean? And like the cost to us financially from taking time out of work, the implications on our body, like it's so true. We should be paid to procreate, in my opinion.
Totally. I mean, we literally put our bodies on the line. We put our brains on the line. We put our careers on the line. We put our earning capacity.
And then the children get the father's name.
Like, sorry. There is just so many noises happening. Can you hear like sirens and stuff? Like it's quite chaotic. But yeah, I was listening to this podcast, Abby Chatfield. In fact, maybe we'll insert some of the audio from it.
The spread of the whole trad wife and the romanticization of that is really fucking scaring me. And not only is it now romanticized, but it's being presented as feminist. Have you seen this?
Listen, I can understand how it works its way within feminism because it's a choice to be someone who is a homemaker. I think what's disturbing to me is that those women who are presenting themselves as homemakers, they've had their hair and makeup professionally done. Someone else is filming them, and it's all set up and lit really beautifully and they're dressed impeccably. There's no baby sick on their shoulder. There's no real representation. It's they're selling you a man's fantasy of how easy it is to be a housewife. Whereas any of us who've got mates who are housewives, we know that their life is like, what's it called? Grand Theft Auto. It's like a game of Grand Theft Auto. It's just like get chaos and danger and baby sick and lactation and it looks like post-war propaganda. Their hairstyles are even in that post-war hairstyle. Perfect and those like, remember those adverts being like, for a vacuum and it shows like a beautifully dressed woman in the 40s, like hoovering and like she's so happy and her kids are so happy and her husband's so happy in his business suit. And so what we're seeing is something that's actually literally been done before. We have the physical paraphernalia of that time that we can go back and look at and be like, oh, look, that's familiar. That was leading to our direct oppression that led to women in their, then the 50s and 60s having to be medicated to get through this fantasy of being a housewife, right? And then being hospitalized, put in mental institutions if they didn't enjoy it and if they resisted it in any way. You can read countless tales of women who, if they were not okay with the status quo, were being sectioned. And I'm like, that's not impossible now. No. That can start happening again.
I think maybe that's what's got me a little bit riled up, where I'm just thinking about, and she spoke in this, I actually highly recommend listening to the whole thing. We'll link it in the podcast show notes. But we spend so much time, money, attention focusing on making ourselves smaller and quieter and more, all of the things. And it's such a distraction from what we're all really capable of doing. And it's like this, I don't know, it just, she spoke about, she was like, do we all look at Afghanistan and look at like how incredibly like fucked that whole situation is and think, that looks like a dream, I want to be there? Or like, do we think that it makes men feel great to feel like the entire economy is on their shoulders? No. Like there's just so many things wrong with the way that the world is heading right now, and it's stressing me out. And I think the cherry on top was me having to go and like inject myself with hormones to give myself more years of fertility. I'm just like, maybe I just do a big giant FU and I'm just like, nah, I'm not going to shave my legs. I'm not going to, like I just have like a real moment of like, nah, I'm not going to do my fertility. Not going to wear deodorant.
You do you, boo. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just.
Yeah. That's right. Take a sip. But speaking of insurance, we actually had the most I literally brought me to tears. We had the most incredible message come through.
Yeah, this is going to make me cry if we're reading this out.
Already feeling vulnerable, plus the alcohol.
I know. Not a good combo.
She goes, I just wanted to let you both know that I turned 35 recently with a breast cancer diagnosis. I self-check, so I caught the lump very early and have a great prognosis, although a shit road ahead. I had only just discovered your podcast at the start of this year and I've devoured every episode. So yes, I have insurance. I had a well-established emergency fund and I've been able to distract myself with the ins and outs of investments. What you've created has literally been a lifeline for a millennial woman like me. So thank you, and a reminder to your community that if they haven't gone back to those amazing insurance episodes you did, to do that. And also a reminder with May coming up that we need to know how to self-check our own breasts. Many of my friends didn't know how, or that they had to because they thought that they were in their 20s and 30s meant that they were low risk, but it turns out that Kiwi women have a 12% chance of getting this. It was like such a beautiful message. Like, honestly, I can't.
Also, the fact that she got insurance and that she had an emergency fund before that happened is just like, I mean, I can't even imagine tomorrow someone telling me that that's my diagnosis, but to know that she had insurance and that she had an emergency fund.
And just being able to focus on going through that emotionally rather than the financial stress. It's like one less thing you have to worry about. And I think that just, like, I've never been through this, but I can only imagine that would help with dealing such a traumatic event. Like, yeah. And with all the conversations about me forgetting to get insurance, you know, for travel and for pet, it's just, I don't know, it was quite a fortuitous time to be sent this message of just like how important insurance is. And it might seem so insignificant, but when it's not until things like this happen, and you could be the unlucky 12%.
By the way, that's so high.
I know. Anyway, I thought it was, a really beautiful message, and thank you.
God, what are we doing a podcast? Yeah. I'm like so riled up and sad, and like no one wants to hear this.
Yeah, I know. I also loved her bit where she was like distracting me with the ins and outs of investments. I was like, yeah, that's good. You know, like we put out these things where we teach people and we educate them about insurance and emergency funds. But, you know, it's actually, I love how she said, you're distracting me with the ins and outs of investments. It's a cool distraction, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's better than TikTok or Instagram.
Yeah, it's actually educational. Well, we hope.
Oh, man.
On that, in terms of distracting everybody with our investments chat, we have a bit of a tariff update. I honestly think this is going to be part of our regular programming for a while.
Do we call it the Tariff Weekly?
Wow. You are on fire.
Not be drinking.
Leave me to the content.
Most people get funnier when they have alcohol. I just turn into momjoke.com.
Anyway, update is that over the past week, there's been an announcement that smartphones and laptops will be exempt from tariffs. So naturally, this meant Apple's share price absolutely roofed it.
Did it?
On the day that was announced. Also, some other interesting things that are coming out is like Hong Kong has stopped sending parcels to the US. China's ordered its airlines to take no further deliveries of Boeing airplanes. Like, this is quite interesting, like all the stuff.
Wait, sorry. So Boeing is the American airline.
Boeing's American airline, and it supplies aircrafts to so many different airlines around the world.
This is turning into the biggest shit fight ever.
I know. It's such a tit for tat. So the tariff now on Chinese goods is 145%, which is just
God.
Like, I'm starting to get emails from retailers being like, hey, any orders over $800, because that's the threshold, is going to be subject to this increase in tariff.
Wait, so if you spend less than $800, you don't get whacked with a tariff?
For now, yeah.
That's fine. Just don't spend over $800.
Yeah, but what if you're buying a Boeing jet?
Oh.
Can I just buy a one door and then one
toilet
seat? But the other thing that we've seen happen is Temu and Shein have seen sales jump like super, super high because American shoppers all kind of flooded to their websites to buy goods before this happened. But the thing that I find the most interesting, and I was talking about this with a friend yesterday, is that I'm not sure if you've been on TikTok, but there has been almost like this revolt, and Chinese factories that make Lululemon, Hermes, Prada, like all these brands for Europe and the US has started to go direct to customers and go, hey, this is the name of our factory. This is how you can buy it. And selling $8 Lululemon leggings.
Are they allowed?
Well, I know, I think there's like legal stuff, but it's also, they're just exposing the fact that a lot of these French luxury brands and European luxury brands are like, they're actually made in China. And they're like, this is, you know, you can make a certain percentage of a product in China and then get it shipped to France, for example, and then it's made in France if you just put the finishing touches on it. But it's just funny how they're like, you know what, if you, the US, we're just going to go, we're going to expose, like, and just go direct, because if the operations are being moved from the factory to the US and they're probably never going to get their business back, it kind of doesn't matter if you over the contract, or do you know what I mean?
So sorry. So basically, is the point of these people exposing where it's made? Are they trying to cheapen US brands to be like, they're made here, shame? Or is it
it's a combination of both. Combination of they've got all this stock that's ready to go that now these brands like Lululemon probably like, actually we don't want that anymore, and they're left with all this stock. So they're going, okay, cool, we can sell this direct through TikTok and still get some money for it because we've done the manufacturing for Lululemon that doesn't want it anymore because it's too expensive to buy or
hold on,
on
sorry.
sale.
So there's people that are selling like almost dead stock of these brands on TikTok for pennies.
For absolute pennies, yeah. And then there's other cases where they are exposing, you know, you thought your Hermes bag was actually made in France or Europe. It's actually been made in China and you can buy it from us. Like it's quite interesting. You know, with algorithms, like once you start watching a few, you start getting fed all this stuff. Like it's quite interesting to watch play out. Yeah. And there's shoes and there's sunglasses and there's so much stuff. But
sorry, I don't get it. Why is there all this spare stock that's now not being sold?
Because Lululemon's like, cool, we have to pay 150% more to get that into the US. No thanks.
But what are they going to sell if they can't get their product there?
Well, it's like they'll increase manufacturing in other regions where the tariff is lower, which could be Europe, it could be other Asian countries, but the bulk of their manufacturing is made in China. I don't know, it's just interesting to see, you know, you can slap these tariffs on, but these factories have never had that direct to consumer access. And now they're like, you know what, we actually don't need you, we can sell product. And yes, it might have to be unbranded in the long run, but you know, look, we've been the factory that's made Lululemon tights for years and years and years. You can buy exactly the same tights off us. So it just depends if you want to keep owning the brand. Yeah.
What about Hermes? Hermes. So can you get really expensive bags and stuff for like $20?
Yeah.
That's like a reputable brand image.
100%.
You can't come back from that. If someone's bought that for $20 just because all this is happening, I mean, I can't imagine people are going to do $2,000.
Well, it was like the Workin, you know, the Walmart Birkin bag that looked exactly.
No, but that's so different because it's a copy. This is the actual product.
But it devalued the brand. And
did it?
It's interesting. Well, people were worried, like, okay, if I'm walking down the street and I've got a $40,000 Birkin and there's someone next to me with a $100 Workin, you know, you're like, oh, I don't really want to own that bag anymore, or I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because the luxury brands are already, you know, seriously suffering because if we expect global growth to be lower, if we expect the US to go into recession, you know, like all these factors play into people not buying luxury goods. Like LVMH is down nearly 25% this year.
For anyone that doesn't know, LVMH is like Louis Vuitton,
Moet Hennessy, yeah, and it owns tons and tons of brands, from, you know, Christian Dior to Dom Perignon to Veuve Clicquot to Veuve Clicquot, to Tiffany and Co. You know, it owns a tons of brands. One of the biggest and most diverse luxury brands or luxury companies. And it tried to buy Hermes 15 years ago. And Hermes was like, oh my God, no, absolutely not, and kind of protected itself really strongly. And then now, 15 years later, because LVMH has been suffering so much over the last, kind of 4 months and a bit longer, Hermes is now bigger than LVMH. So what a big F you to like.
I thought you were going to say now Hermes is crawling back to LVMH being like, please buy us.
No.
Wow.
And if Hermes wanted to, it could turn around and buy LVMH.
Oh my God.
Do not think that's going to happen. But I'm just saying, when a company is suffering like LVMH is, it does lead to sharks circling going, if this keeps falling, it's going to get quite attractive in terms of, maybe we're going to take over your company. So this is why it's always an incentive for companies to keep doing well and keep growing. So what I'm kind of getting to is that, with a lot of companies in the market right now not doing very well in terms of their share price, there could be some opportunistic companies coming in and making bids or taking over these companies. Like we saw last week, Prada bought Versace for $1.4 billion. I mean, it could have probably waited a few more weeks and got it for a cheaper price with the share prices falling around the world. But the other thing that's kind of coming out of these tariffs is the strength that Europe is seeing in terms of, being a winner in all of this. The euro, so its currency, is the strongest it's been in 3 years. And if you think of a currency,
oh my God, does this mean if we're earning pounds that we'll be, oh no, because we're not attached to Europe anymore? No. Devastating.
Yeah, a currency is a reflection of a country's strength, I guess. And like a share price goes up when a company's doing well, currency goes up when a country is doing well. So yeah, the fact that it's the strongest in 3 years is really, really good. And I read this line, which I thought was quite funny. It's like, there's a feeling that Europe's just like a museum. Like it is quite old and dodgery and like archaic. And it's like the museum is now coming to life and it's really like sitting up and being like, hey,
welcome.
Which is an incredible turnaround considering literally 6 months ago, we were talking about hot US AI stocks and, the market was doing fantastic. And now we're like, oh, Europe, hello.
Europe had a glow up.
Europe has had a serious glow up.
Do you think we could chat in the investing club about some potential ideas for investments
Already
in Europe?
done it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
What was that?
I don't know. Because I kind of knew what you were going to say and I was like, yeah, Vic.
Oh. Cool. I'm excited. This is the coolest thing we've ever done, I think.
We have an app.
Can you believe it?
I know. Quite cool.
If you told me that, even 3 months ago, I'd be like, as if.
I feel like when you have an app, you're an actual business.
I know.
Yeah.
And we haven't really talked about this much. I don't know why, but the Investing Club, it's an app basically. Yeah. So you can download it from whether you're
Apple and Google.
Yeah. You can watch all of the investing ideas. You can chat in the community. You can speak to Vic directly, all on the go. And the reason that we went down this path is just like we've had so many students go through our courses and stuff, but when you have to be sitting at your laptop, you can't do it on the go. It is kind of, everyone's busy.
And we can notify you when things in the stock market happen.
God, yeah, we've got push notifications.
Yeah, so it's really, really great. We did one this morning. We do a little update, a stock market update every week. So you can be on the pulse wherever you are, going about your daily lives. So we got you.
Yeah. If you want to try, we've got a free trial for 7 days. And yeah, jump in and have a look around. Comment, talk to us, share your ideas. It's a really cool space. And yeah, we've got all of we've put a link in the podcast show notes so you can find out more.
One thing I want to touch on, and I don't know if this is going to be like, meh, meh, but it's related to bonds. We haven't talked about bonds enough, to be honest, in terms of, because they are boring. But now they're in the news and they could, they're part of this tit for tat with the US and China. And I'm trying to figure out a way to explain them where you don't fall asleep, to be honest.
Okay, and so yeah, you've got my attention.
Like, I'm already on the back foot with the alcohol, the stressful day. So I'm like, maybe do we leave the bond chat for another time?
No. I can pay attention. So bonds is like fixed interest, right? So it's like
Yes,
you know exactly what return you're going to be getting because you agree before you give them your money on this is your return and this is the time that it's going to take. It's all kind of like prearranged interest and returns.
It's a loan. Yeah. So it is a loan that you are giving a company or a government, and with the expectation you will get that loan back. They pay you interest, just like if you borrow money from a bank for a mortgage or
a friend
a credit
or anything.
card or a friend, anything. It's like friends charging you interest, lol. But yes, exactly. You are giving someone money, they're borrowing it off you, and they're going to give it back after a set period of time. So to explain this, it's like you're China, I'm the US. You've borrowed money off me. Now you hold $800 billion.
Okay, 800 billion.
Yeah, you've borrowed $800 billion from me. Now, and that's for a set period of time with set interest rates that you're going to pay me because you've borrowed it off me.
Is this a real life example?
Yeah, this is a real life example. But now we hate each other.
Yeah. Oh no, but did they get the prenup? Is it all in writing?
Well, it is in writing, but we're talking about $800 billion here. Like this
That's
can really move.
a lot of money.
And so
just sell TikTok. They need to just sell TikTok, get it over and done with, not be in debt to the US.
Why don't you guys just go out and have some palomas, hug it out, and then like we can move on.
Order some croquettes, just get over it.
Honestly.
If there's like any high-end or like economists of any description that listen to this podcast and we're like, China, US, just go out and get some croquettes and sort it out. They'd be like, these two.
But anyway, it's kind of, I guess, it's been called like the nuclear option that China has is China has this $800 billion of US government debt, and everyone's not a bit on edge, but they're like, oh, what could they do?
God,
I would be bowing down to everything you said.
Same. I'd be terrified. I'd be like, oh, you want me to scratch your back? No worries. Which area are we scratching?
So anyway, there is concern that China could just effectively dump all of that debt on what we call the open market, which means it's going to effectively flood the market and push bond prices down.
I'm sorry, is the reason that is because bonds are loaning the government money?
Yeah.
So that's the connection to how it would end up back in the, can you just explain that link one more time?
Yeah, so you can sell, like even though you've borrowed the money off me, you could sell it to Mary for $600 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Because and you don't really care because you're like, I hate you, Vic. I just don't want to hold your money anymore. And you could sell it at a huge discount, but the interest rate, because you pay the interest rate, say it's 10% just for argument's sake.
Can we use an example? So let's say I owe you $10 and I don't want to owe you money anymore. I want someone else to be involved. So I sell it to someone else. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, but because of the contract is a set amount that you have to pay in interest. So even though it's a percentage of what is a larger figure. And now that you've sold that and that $10 is a lot smaller, that percentage goes up. So in order to borrow that money now is way, way higher because you have to pay a higher interest rate. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely not.
Anyway, I think really high level is that you could go, I'm going to dump this $800 billion on the open market, which means that anyone else can buy it, but they're buying it for a super, super cheap price, which means that interest rates go up. Therefore, it's more expensive for the US to borrow money. So
wait, the US? I thought it was China that was borrowing money.
Yes, but because interest rates are now gone up, because the price of the bond has fallen. Oh my God, I knew this would be like.
This is so confusing.
I've got it. Okay. Say you borrowed $100 and you have to pay $10 in interest every year. to borrow that money. That's 10%. Say you sold that bond, that $100 bond, for $50 to someone else, they still have to pay that $10, which is now 20% interest. So instantly, interest rates have gone up. Because when bond prices fall, interest rates go up. And so therefore, if you want to borrow money again, you're going to have to pay 20%, not 10. So it's essentially, I mean, the mechanics of it, I'm not going to get into, but it's essentially that if China dumps this $800 billion of debt, of, you know, the loan that it's taken from the US, we still have to pay the interest on that bond. And because it's going to dump it at a super cheap price, the bond price is going to fall and means that the interest rates are going to go up and it's going to be more expensive for the US to borrow money. Look, we're going to do a whole episode on this because I feel like we just scratched the surface, and it's a different way to invest and it's a different understanding to shares. So it does need, we do need to spend a bit of time on it. But essentially, if China dumps this $800 billion, or effectively sells it, it could effectively destabilize financial markets as we know them today. It could seriously make the US dollar fall, which we just spoke about is bad, and really, really slow down the US economy because interest rates will rise. It'll be harder to do business. It'll be more expensive to borrow money. And it just could really, really have a damaging impact on the US economy.
Shit. So basically, what could happen here is Trump's trying to bring, all production and everything into the US to make US thrive. And actually, if China dumps the debt that they owe them, it's going to have like a profoundly negative impact on the US economy and the world.
Yeah, essentially. It's like this, they've got this little option up their sleeve, this massive option up their sleeve. So you kind of don't want to poke the bear too much,
Isn't China the one that's at a disadvantage because they're in debt? It's so weird to me that it's the US that's at risk, even though China is the one that's in debt. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's confusing.
But every country's in debt pretty much.
But like the fact that it's in debt to the US, I thought that, before when I was joking, being like, tell me where to scratch your back. I thought that was because China was so at the mercy of the US because they're so in debt to them. But what you're saying is like they can kind of pull a joker out and be like, okay, well, you think that we're in debt to you. Actually, shame. Now we've done this.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely will have impacts on China as well. And could have like you said, a really big global impact, which China will get caught up in. So it's got to realize it can't be a hat trick that can pull out and have no impact on other countries around the world. So it's kind of, you're cutting off your nose despite your face kind of thing. That saying I've never really got, but yeah. It's like, do you lose a finger or lose an arm? You lose a finger.
Both. So both are shit. Both are shit options.
Yeah. And just to finish on something non-tariff related, there is a case going on in Australia at the moment where they want to introduce a ban for social media companies. There is age limits and they cannot provide their services to children under 16.
That's amazing.
They've really been pushing for it, but there's been an update this week where YouTube is not going to be caught up in this. It's only going to be TikTok, Meta, and Snap, which is Snapchat.
Why is that?
And those three social media companies are outraged. They're like, it's illogical, it's anti-competitive, it's short-sighted, but there is a case that the government is saying that YouTube is educational, yeah. So it's exempt, but I don't know. It's a step in the right direction, and I think I'm hearing a lot of noises in New Zealand as well about similar restrictions happening because it is toxic and it is scary what is out there for young people when they're online.
It's scary what's out there for a 33-year-old.
Totally. I know.
I mean, the poor children, get them bloody away from it.
I know.
But I'm actually and I really want to figure out a way of like blocking myself out of apps for you know, so that I can only access them for like half an hour a day or like whatever. Because I just think it's so hard to try and like rival with being like, you shouldn't be addicted to your phone. It's like, hello, there's like billions and trillions of dollars poured into these to make me addicted. Like, do you think my willpower is going to be doing better? No.
And it's hard to know what to cut out. Like, I get a lot of my news now from like TikTok, for example. And I know,
don't say that.
Sorry. No. I mean, I get a lot of.
This podcast is prepped solely from what Vic sees on TikTok.
No. Okay, sorry. No, I mean like not investment news, not like Miki news, but more like, oh gosh, did you see such and such died? Or like,
I get that from like Amanda Bynes is joining like OnlyFans, you know?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is apparently happening.
Cool.
No, but she's doing it to chat with fans. She's asking them to pay $50 US and then just going to be talking to them.
Maybe we should do that. Lol.
No one wants to pay to talk to you or me.
Anyway, YouTube is exempt from this, which if I put my investing hat on is good news for Google.
Oh, yes, of course, because Google own YouTube.
Yes. And if this takes flight and is kind of replicated in lots of other countries, it's going to be even more good news for Google.
You did say Google was your pick for 2025 in our predictions.
I did.
And I think I copied you.
Yeah. Yep. And what else did I say? I said the market was going to be down about, it was going to be up about 6 or 7%.
No, you didn't. You said it was going to have a shitter. And I was like, I think it's going to go bonkers and be up so much.
Yeah, but I said it would be like single digits.
For anyone that has no idea what we're talking about, we basically did like predictions at the start of the year. And we're like, what do we think we're going to see? And I was like, it's going to be so good. It's going to be the best year ever.
But it doesn't matter because we're long-term investors.
God, you are right. I'm tired. I knew that would happen from one drink. I have one drink and then I want to go to bed and I can't.
You need espresso martini.
I don't know if that's a great idea.
No, not before bed.
Nah.
So funny. It was like, I saw a meme. It's like in your 20s when you're like 4 espresso martinis deep at like 1 a.m. and you're just like having a ball. And then in your 30s, it's like, oh, no, I shouldn't have coffee after 2 p.m. You know?
Yeah, but also, can you remember how you felt when you had 4 espresso martinis? Like I was.
Red Bull vodkas?
No. I was such an anxious mess. There was actually a point in time where I'm pretty sure I had like a silent panic attack the next day because I was so hungover and had so much caffeine. And I remember thinking, I wonder why I feel so shit. Like, I don't know, maybe because you had 7 espresso martinis last night.
Gosh, I would have achieved so much in my life if I added up all the days that I was hungover on the couch.
And weren't hungover those times, you mean?
Yeah, like if I add up all those days and then wasn't hungover.
Oh, you're so productive. You don't need to go and make yourself feel worse about that. Absolutely not.
Okay, well, happy Easter.
I'm quite happy that we didn't do a full Trump episode. That was quite good.
Yeah, I took your advice from last week.
Thank you.
Plus I was getting kind of sick of it too.
For anyone who hasn't listened, last week we put out a podcast with Polly Marcus, which was such a fun listen. And if you haven't listened, quite good. There's one particular partner when she speaks about her investing and an absolute shocker decision that she made. And I love that she shared it. I was like, shit, yeah, Pol.
Yeah.
Because so many people have had shockers and are too embarrassed to talk about them. So anyway, it's a good listen if you haven't listened already.
Oh, I reckon I've had a shocker with Tesla, but that's
What's happened?
Oh no, I just think I backed the wrong horse.
Since when?
Well, but Tesla's just going down, down and down and down, and BYD's going up and up and up and up and up. Anyway.
But did you not do both?
No.
Guess who did?
Yeah.
No, I didn't actually because I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't find it on any of the platforms. I wanted to.
Yeah.
We're just so struggling to shut up here, aren't we?
I know. We should just, we can go out with a bang.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to The Curve Weekly. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all the money, biz and stock market news. And if you like what you heard, we would love a review. Thank you.
Yes, we would love a review. But if you did hate it, please, don't leave one if you hate it. No, but in all seriousness, could you please leave a review? Because it really helps other people find our cute little podcast.
And we hope you have a good week and see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye. Sweet. Yeah. See you next Tuesday. Lol. See you next Tuesday. I mean Monday.
No, actually though, new episodes out every Tuesday. Okay, quickly. The Curve was created to empower and educate you about investing, but we are not financial advisors.
Our platform exists for educational purposes only, and it doesn't provide personalized investing advice for your individual needs and should not be relied upon to make an investment or financial decision.
And always remember to do your own research before making any investment or financial decision.
We're here for any knowledge and support you need, but the final call is always yours.
And thanks for being here.
You got this.
Yeah, we know you got this.